Welcome back to Breakfast Central. We're looking at the big stories making the headlines today, and we're joined by the publisher of CKN News, Kehinde Nwandu, as we analyze the stories. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, let's get into the paper this morning and look at our first paper. On the front page of our first paper this morning, the big story on the Daily Independent is Tinubu vows to sustain war against drugs and illicit substances. Drug test kits must for homes, schools, offices, according to Marwa. AMCON's conflicting profit report cause for worry. Dangote says fire at refinery won't affect operations. And anyway, $1 trillion economy. NGX unveils e-offering platform in readiness for banks recapitalization. El Rufai sues Kaduna Assembly over 432 billion naira probe report. Now, the figure is quite confusing. We've been seeing mixed reports. Some say 432, some say 423. The Speaker of the Kaduna State House of Assembly said 423. So it's a number of mixed figures we're seeing there. Army deploys 177 personnel to Guinea-Bissau for peacekeeping. Only government policies can enhance access to quality medicines. And this is by Obi. Explosion at hotel ploy to foist state of emergency, says Fubara. This is a follow-up to the Rivers crisis. Pro-Wike ex-local government chairman may freeze council's actions, according to reps. Tinubu not working against the interest of North, according to Shetima. And final story, Lagos proactive steps averted catastrophic outcome in cholera battle, according to Sanwo-Olu. Let's move over to the next paper.
All right. The Punch news comes up next. Dangote refinery, crude supply crisis threatens oil investments. Operators warn federal government. Federal government urged to deepen investors' confidence. Dangote allays fear over refinery fire. Also, well, like you said, different figures. 423 billion naira theft. El Rufai sues Kaduna Assembly, challenges probe. We can also find the government and ASUU meet to avert strike in varsities. Federal government and banks begin talks on nationwide broadband rollout. Tinubu backs NDLEA to end drug abuse and trafficking. National Assembly resumes 2023 budget implementation extension. PDP candidate receives APC defectors, vows to unseat Ayedatiwa. That's also on the Punch newspapers this morning. That's all we have. Next newspaper before we bring in our guests this morning. Let's go to the Nigerian Tribune.
On the front page of the Nigerian Tribune, FEC steps down memo on new minimum wage. Tinubu to consult governor's private sector. Information minister says wage award will continue for now. Interesting. We expect new wage implementation by July ending, says Labour. Ways and Means securitization responsible for 24 trillion naira debt rise, according to DMO. Cardozo expresses optimism about taming inflation. Explosion rocks Port Harcourt, kills dynamite-bearing protester. Anti-Fubara forces enjoying federal might, Clark tells Tinubu. No plan to dethrone Sultan, says Sokoto government. Students' loan, federal government postpones application process for state institutions. Customs Deputy Comptroller General slumps, dies at Reps investigative hearing. That was quite traumatic to watch. Cholera, FEC approves Interministerial Committee on Emergency Operations. That's all that we can take this morning. And remember that you can be a part of the conversation. The numbers to call are on your TV screens. Please do well to call and be a part of the conversation. But now let's bring in Kehinde Nwandu to react to some of the stories. And I'd like us to, begin with the Punch newspaper, which was the first one that we took. No, it wasn't the Punch newspaper. The Daily Independent newspaper was the first one that we took. There's so many stories there. Maybe we can start with the Kaduna situation. El Rufai suing Kaduna Assembly, which was what we talked about before we went on break, saying that they denied him his fundamental right of fair hearing whilst conducting their investigation, and now he sued them for his fundamental rights to be enforced.
Yeah, he's within his right as enshrined in the Constitution. I think it's Schedule 4 of the 1990 amended as a right to sue if he feels that his personality or his person is being impugned in whatever way by the report of the State House of Assembly on the alleged loans taken by his administration. But the State House of Assembly have come to say that they were investigating the administration, not El Rufai as a person, and that they've called the necessary people that they felt need to be called and to answer questions on some of the issues being raised, mostly the commissioners and some tax what do we call it now, tax expert or consultant, as it were. But you cannot shave the head of a man in his absence. So you are talking about an administration which somebody administered for 8 years. So the onus is on you to also invite the person. You cannot probe my administration. You cannot be probing my. You can't say you are probing my family. You call my son. You call my daughter.
You don't call me.
And me and myself, the man of the house. You didn't invite me. So it is within his right. But I don't think the Kaduna State government have taken any action on that report yet, because the House of Assembly doesn't have a right of prosecution. They don't have. What they do is they do their basic investigation as they and move it. But the fundamental part is that if there's going to be prosecution, anybody can call for prosecution. It doesn't have to wait for the government. You as an individual, especially somebody somebody from Kaduna State, because I from Imo cannot go and start suing it, because the court will ask, what is your interest? I don't have locus, I don't have any interest in affairs in Kaduna. But even NGOs, civil society organizations and everything, who feel that this has to do with the lives of people, right, can also go to court. But I don't know why the Kaduna State government is dilly-dallying, because they're supposed to issue a white paper. His
team, Everify's team, the response to this is that there is some political undertone happening there. And do you see that as a possibility? And it's a bit confusing, because both of them are from the same political party. If it was like rival political parties, would have said, oh, that's the usual excuse. But if they're giving the excuse of some political undertone happening here,
the man that is there today was practically picked by Nasir El-Rufai, the Senator Sani, as the candidate of the APC, and he supported them all through. This is not the first time we are seeing this. It has happened in several states. What is happening in River State is the same thing. The godfather and the godson, they're falling out. You've seen it happen in several Kanu, Abia, Enugu.
Even though Rivers has not yet investigated.
So those are no, but that was he said that he was going to investigate.
Yes, he said, but he hasn't really investigated.
I'm saying that no, what they are talking about, the falling out of godfathers and godsons, is nothing new.
Well, true that.
Yes, but whatever we do, whatever they do should be in the interest of the people of Kaduna State. 432 billion, 423 billion, whichever way is that, which means whichever one. The fact remains that the money of Kaduna people seems to have, quote unquote, taken a flight, and they have a right to be able to investigate. Now, if on the basis of going to court, as I repeat, the former governor has a right to be able to go to court and going to seek redress in terms of, because it is perception and image. And he feels that his fundamental human rights are being breached. But that is what all of them always say. Yeah. That's what all of them always say. Oh, you're infringing on. Yeah, but the fact is that if you have the fact, there are certain issues that even you are not invited, if there are certain facts that you have at your disposal, and you say that, then it's for you to bring out the facts and say, you understand what I mean? You have a right. You can even take a full page in the newspaper and say, the so-called money you say that as well, this is what was used, this is what you remember what happened in Abia State when the governor of Abia State accused the former governor of embezzling the money meant for the airport in Abia State. That's Okeze Ikpeazu. Okeze Ikpeazu came to say, okay, no, we decided to stop that airport project because we believe it wasn't viable. It's not started writing that project. Yes, yeah. Start writing. We use it on this social project. We use it on this one. That is how it goes.
But I mean, for me, and I think it was one of the things I was trying to point out with the previous guest that we had, is a lot of times these things just end up nowhere.
Yeah.
When you hear about a new government probing the activities of the previous administration, Nigerians have this expectation, that if you don't go to the EFCC, if there's no major EFCC case, that a lot of times still even goes nowhere. But the expectation in the Nigerian mind is that it has to be the EFCC investigating and charging this person with hundreds of billion of naira in fraud before we can have any conversation about it. But from what you've said before we even started, we don't have to wait for the EFCC. The state government as itself, the State House of Assembly, or even an individual has the ability to put out its case. Go do its own fact-finding mission, put out its case against this individual. The police itself should be able.
The police have a fraud unit, anti-fraud. The police have a fraud unit. So you don't have to wait for EFCC. If you have any, you can just take it straight to the police. It doesn't have to wait. It's not EFCC alone.
And these are some of the things that trouble me the most. The fact that we don't even act like the police itself exists when it comes to these types of
It is
crimes.
even before the advent of the EFCC, it's the police that have that right and that capacity to be able to investigate issues of fraud. They have a full department in the Nigerian police
force,
domiciled at the first. In fact, I think it's a DIG that is in charge, and you have various AIGs and commissioners of police down the line that are in charge of it. So if there's any level of fraud, the police can be able to go in. But most often than not, I need to point this clear, just like that of EFCC. If EFCC does not just wake up and say,
yes,
I'm going to, you must get a petition across. It's just like a court.
Yeah.
The fact that the judge heard that somebody stole or did this thing will not just start it. You must take that case to
what I'm just trying to establish, and just to remind our viewers, you can also call, share your thoughts. If you're from Kaduna State this morning, we'd like to hear from you, or any other part of the country. What I'm trying to establish here is that when we hear about new governments making claims about the previous government mismanaging funds and all of that, and eventually that case just dies or those conversations just die, I would like to remind these state governments that if you are not taking full advantage of what is available to you to investigate and prosecute this man or woman, stop wasting our time.
Is it only the state government? What of the National Assembly? You've forgotten? All the probes that goes on at National Assembly, committee this, committee that, and the rest of the, what do you see coming out of it? Nothing. They just finish the probe. They say, we're passing our investigation to the executive, and that is where it ends. And it shouldn't be so. It shouldn't be so.
Let's move on to other stories this morning. There's also a story on the Punch newspapers this morning here, and we spoke with Professor Shodeke sometime this week. Government and ASUU meet to avert strikes in varsities. Let's get your thoughts on that one. Of course, the NLC strike has been suspended for now. ASUU did, threaten their own strike.
Yes, when it comes to issue of ASUU, it's no longer news. So when I read anything about ASUU going on strike, it's just like NLC saying they are going on strike. It has so consistent, and it has always been issue of funding, issue of salaries and the rest of them. And we've been on this for over 30, 40 years, right from the days of Ali Mosgo and the rest of them. When I was in school, I left the university in 1990. I knew that all through my 5 years in the university, we are always having this issue every 6 months as we go on strike. But I don't think that ASUU is selfish in its demand, because you come to think of it, most of their colleagues have even jackpot. When you see people, a lot of this jackpot, it affects the universities and tertiary institutions more than even the individual. The individual, but it is difficult for you to replace lecturers, professors, PhD holders, lecturers, in the universities and the polytechnics or whatever. And so when they make some of this demand, it seems as if it's just their selfish. It's not their selfish interest. It is for the betterment of it. Look at the UNESCO indications when it comes to how much should be budgeted for education.
Yes.
Have we been able to meet that threshold in the past 20 years? The same thing for health. I think it's about 15% of the budget, or I can't remember whichever now. Have we able to do that? And it trickled down to a lot of, because people talking, cholera. And I was saying something on that platform yesterday or so. And I said, we are talking of cholera. The fact is that the institutions, research institutions in Nigeria, you're talking, you don't have vaccines. If funds are provided for most of these research institutions, they'll be able to get us the vaccines. In the universities, most of those institutions, most of those money that's supposed to be made for research are no longer there. You don't see professors doing any research again, because they cannot be able to do it. They can't be able to afford it. So those are the so it has a spiral effect. Now, down to the issue of minimum wage. The governor said they are meeting, after the fact, the president said that he's going to step down the issue of this thing until he had a much robust discussion with the state government and also the organized in the private sector. Now, the governors, I think they're meeting today or tomorrow to be able to harmonize this. And we are hearing that by the end of July, something will come out. But that was also what we are told, that on the 12th of June, June 12th, that the president was going to announce the new minimum wage. But the president told us that, yes, he's ready and he's going to transmit. It's about transmitting a letter to the National Assembly. Only for Labour to come back and say, no, sir, we've not agreed. Then that was put on the stall. Then on this, I think this issue of minimum wage should just be, it's taking too long, for goodness sake. 1 year, 1 year, it took the government just less than a minute when the president was inaugurated to say fuel subsidy is gone. It has taken the president over 1 year to now tell us what he wants to do. They want to do better. But I don't blame the president solely because it is not just about the federal government. It's about the federal government, it's about the state government, it's about the local government, it's also about the private sector. And I've always been of this school of thought that I believe that we should tinker with our laws where every state should be allowed to be able to come up with what it can pay. My state of Imo, it will be very difficult for you to compare my state of Imo with Lagos State. If Lagos State are going to pay 250, can Imo pay 250,000? Because if you look at it presently, some states still can't pay the 30,000 naira, have not paid it. Over 18 to 20 states have not been able to pay. It's not it's not because of the fact that they may not be able to pay, but because of the selfish interest of our leaders. Because you cannot tell me that what you receive from the center has increased by over 300% since the removal of oil subsidy, and you still cannot be able to pay those minimum wage. Then something must be fundamentally wrong. And if they cannot be able to, then the governor should be able to resign.
Yeah. All right. I think let's look at the Nigerian Tribune. Still on the front page, Cardozo expresses optimism about taming inflation. Says CBN will adhere to conventional methods. Do you express same optimism?
Well, they've been trying their best as it were for me, but is their best good enough? That is because the basic thing is that if it does not trickle down to the pocket, your pocket, my pocket, and the food on the table, whatever economic jargons anybody is saying doesn't make sense to me. You saw what was trending. My sister is very good at social media, and I didn't say anything.
Wow.
You saw what was trending about 3 tomatoes in one of these supermarkets was going for about 6,000-7,000 naira. Average Nigerian is suffering. Food prices has hit the roof. It is for the first time I am seeing in Nigeria where people are now buying sliced yam. I don't know. I have never seen it in my life. Yam used to be whole. You want to buy yam, you go and buy one whole. Now,
but a lot of people can't afford it.
The people cannot afford it. Yeah. And we have to be very careful. Now, you say, oh, we cannot happen in Nigeria. It happens. I've said it time and time again that there have been instances where a government was brought up just because of the price of bread. We saw what happened in Kenya. Just Kenya, just there. Because of the finance bill, the people troop out. And before you knew it, the government thought the president was saying all sorts of things. But at the end of it all, he has eaten his words. Yesterday, when he saw that the youth, and I'm talking about the youth, have practically taken over the conversation. He has nothing to, what else did he do than to say, I'm withdrawing it. And before then, over 24 people or 27 people have died. So it gets to a point where you push the goat to the wall, and the next thing is it passes back. Anything that will trigger any kind of unrest in Nigeria should be arrested now. We cannot be able to afford it because people are ready to do anything. And that is why I think that these issues, especially economic issues, even based on what the president promised, palliatives, some of the things surrounding the increment of the petroleum, should be rolled out, for goodness sake. I laugh when I see every day one governor will come and say, we're about to share palliative. They bring out 500 bags of rice.
Yeah, but that has never worked.
Has it ever worked anywhere? Has it ever worked anywhere? Yeah. Or you say you want to share 50,000, 24,000 across about 12 million Nigerians, and I ask you, which register are you using to share?
That has absolutely never worked. You know, I mean, we keep playing the ostrich, and that's one of the problems.
And that's it.
Explosion rocks Port Harcourt, kills dynamite-bearing protester. It says also anti-Fubara forces enjoying federal might, Clark tells Tinubu. And so, of course, you know, the drama continues in Rivers State.
There's another paper that reports that same story, and the way it reports it is, I can't see the paper now, but it says that they're trying to...
Explosion at hotel employed to voice state of emergency,
yes.
On the street.
Yes, the governor came out yesterday during the visit of some members of the National Assembly to the state, and in response to some of the issues they raised, and he said that there was a deliberate attempt to make Rivers State look insecure, and he stated that the bomb was meant to be detonated at the presidential hotel in Port Harcourt, where those senators and House of Representatives members were staying, so that it will give them the impression of insecurity, so that when they get back to Abuja, they will be able to back that. That is the scenario he painted. But good enough, I heard that the guy behind it has been arrested and he's facing question. But I think the issue of River State should be laid to bear, and it should be laid to bear. And I believe that if the president, my personal opinion, if the president wants this to stop, he can be able to do it. And ask me why. It's not by telling the governor, but by telling the Minister of FCT, who is under his watch, that, my friend, focus on the job I've given you, which is the FCT. If you want to play politics with Rivers, probably you have to lead the cabinet and go and play your politics. But once you are within this cabinet, then because it is bringing a lot of wrong vibes to the government, because the impression everybody is having is that whatever is happening, especially with Wike, that the president is behind him, and that in itself is not good for this bet. I think that they should be able to sort this out if what they are fighting for is in the interest of the people of Rivers State and not their personal interest.
That's a big if.
That is the if. That's why I said if. Capital if.
Really big.
That's a really big if.
Yes.
I did mention, that nobody can claim to love River State so much that they wouldn't allow governance to go on in the state.
Yeah, totally.
Your love for River State cannot be that dark.
I totally agree.
You will not allow actual governance going in the state for more than 1 year. So
I
don't know if you can call it love.
Yeah, just
for
there has not been any progress in the past 1 year in River State, because all they have been doing, no development. All they have been doing is just fighting.
Well, anyway, another place where they are fighting is not just in Nigeria, but also in Kenya. Thank you very much, CKN, for joining us.
Yes, as I said, what happened in Kenya should be an eye-opener to the Nigerian government. Anything is possible. Let us be careful and make sure that we listen to the people and do the right thing. Yeah. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you
very much. All right, we'll let you know what our guest has to say.